On this episode of Narcissist Apocalypse, we talk with a survivor named Chance. And Chance was in a 4-year long-distance relationship with a toxic liar. It's a story of becoming a single mom while working 3 jobs to provide for her child and always being given the runaround by a present/future deadbeat dad. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of toxic relationships. I am Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad. And thanks for tuning into this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we refer to a narcissist as anyone who has displayed a pattern of behavior that shows a limited capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. It is that simple. And now, before we get to our episode with Chance, I first want to thank everyone in the Narcissist Apocalypse community for listening to the show and sharing your thoughts by email, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Are there more than that? I don't think so. There could be. Pinterest, but we're not on there. Also, a reminder, if you haven't left us a review on whatever podcast service you use, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Castbox, etc., leave us a 5-star written review as it helps out the show a lot when it comes to rankings. Now, if you haven't been to our website recently, please do go there if you want to be part of our show, narcissistapocalypse.com. Click on the guest form at the top of the page. It will take you to a guest form, fill it out, and away we will go from there. Another way to be part of our show is to be on our Letters to Our Narcissist compilation episode. And to be on that one, go again to narcissistapocalypse.com. On the side of the page, there's a button that says Send Voicemail. It's a voicemail recorder on our website. And you click on that button, it records up to 5 minutes. You need more than 5 minutes, click it twice. You need more than 10 minutes, click it 3 times. And it's a floating button. It's really hard to miss. We're accumulating these letters to have a volume 5 of that episode. And if you don't want to read the letter yourself and you want myself or my old pal Melissa, hey Melissa, to read it for you, just send us an email at narcissistapocalypse@gmail.com. And in the subject line, put letters to my narcissist. Other things on the site. We offer high-conflict parenting courses that can be found at narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. Yes, we have partnered with an online parenting company called Online Parenting. And many of the courses we are offering were created by Bill Eddy, who is an expert in dealing with these individuals in court. And now he's helped create many parenting courses to help you through divorce and to help support your children too. These courses are the most widely recognized courses by family courts across the country. So if you want to support the show and are looking for guidance, please do go to narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. What else do I got down here? Our Patreon. I'm going to be throwing up, I think, 3 episodes right after I do this little recording right now. One of those episodes will be a free episode this week on our Patreon. And so go there to, where are we here? I'm looking down at my page. Go to patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. We have on there episodes that never made it to air, follow-up episodes with former guests, and much, much more. One of the episodes that we're also putting up this week, myself and my old pal Melissa did about 2 hours last night discussing 50 Shades of Grey. We had a good time while doing it. We had a lot of laughs. We analyzed, the movie, the abuse that happens. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. What else do I got down here on my list? I'm trying to get through this as fast as I can right now, just because this episode's pretty long. I did my best. I am now 8 hours in on my editing. Hopefully I'll be done in the next 20 to 25 minutes. This was we recorded a lot, and now I had to get it down to as concise and compact show I could. I shaved down a bunch of it. It's still really long. And, you know, there's a lot of good lessons to be learned in this story. I mean, especially if you're in it right now and you do have kids or things like that and you don't think you can get out of your relationship or having a hard time. Chance is really an inspiration. You know, she worked multiple jobs at the same time just to provide for her child. And, you know, eventually, even though it was long distance, she did what, you know, she needed to do. And it wasn't easy for her. You know, you want to be in that relationship with your partner and have this life. And eventually she knew the best thing to do was, you know, to not do it anymore. So anyway, I'm just rambling there. I'm going to get out of my way, your way. Here is my conversation with Chance. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, everyone. With me today, I have Chance. How are you?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It is early for the day it is of the week. And I have a coffee here. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hear your story. And for everyone else who's listening, this is going to be an interesting story because this one is all long distance. And I don't think we've had one on the show before that has been all long distance. So thank you for coming on the show today, Chance. And now I am rambling and I'm going to get out of my way and your way, Chance. The floor is now yours.
Okay, so I guess a little backstory would be like as far as like my family life and everything. Like, I had a really, really great childhood. Like, my parents are still together. I don't think in their like 30-something years of marriage I've ever heard either one of them like talk down to each other or like fight or. Like, they're still very much in love. So I pretty much had, like, healthy role models in that regard, which was good. But then I guess in my, like, late teens, I was in, like, a super, like, emotionally and verbally abusive relationship. And I, after that, tended to date, like, fake guys, like, ones, like, I wasn't fully invested in. So when I met my ex, it was, like, you know, head over heels, this is amazing. So I guess summer of 2014, I was kind of like in a bit of a rut, like just not sure what I really wanted to do with my life. And I was in a relationship with like a really nice guy. He like never did anything wrong, but there was just like no spark. Like it was like boring, I guess you could say, like kind of fell flat. So I just decided, because I had nothing tying me down, that I was going to pick up and move to London for a couple of months and take a makeup class just to like learn to be a makeup artist.
London, England?
Yes, London, England.
And you're from the United States?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It was just something like I've always just wanted to like live and study abroad. It was just, and like I know I could have done that here, but I'm like, you know what, I'm young and I just want to do something different. So my parents supported me. They actually like paid for everything for me to go and do this. So I just kind of picked up and went to England and started taking this makeup class. And, you know, it was great. Like I made a lot of friends. I was really enjoying myself. And then I decided while I was there, I was like, you know what? While I'm here, I want to take advantage. I want to go like on a date with an Englishman, like just to say I did it. So I like just made like a dating app or whatever, and I just put like, oh, I'm here for a few months. Like it'd be really nice just to like, you know, go out, like see the town, whatever, with nothing serious. And then that's when I met my ex. And also that would probably be one of the first red flags in our relationship, which I didn't even realize now, is that like we met through a dating app, but he never wanted us to tell anybody that we met through a dating app. He had this whole like meet cute. He wanted to tell people how we met. which was like kind of weird to me because I'm like, oh, tons of people meet on dating apps. It's not that big of a deal.
Well, especially, you know, when I was growing up, if you were to have met someone on a dating website, that was considered unusual. But in the, you know, we're in the, what year was it, 2014 here?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty par for the course that this is how society works now. So it's not
exactly
anything
like, it
unusual.
Wasn't a big deal. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question, and I apologize for interrupting. What did his profile say? What did it look like?
Okay, so I remember. So he has a son from a previous relationship, and I remember he had he had a picture with him and his son, and like, you know, he talked about how, you know, he kind of like played it up like the doting dad, which like normally wasn't a thing for me because at that point I didn't even want kids. But I thought it was sweet. Like, I was like, oh, and I wasn't looking for anything serious. So I was like, okay, that's not really that big of a deal. You know, we can just hang out or whatever. We had just a lot of similar interests as far as just like movies, style-wise, I guess you could say. Because I tend to I guess I have more of like an alternative kind of style. And like, I usually don't date guys like that. But like, he kind of had that look. And I was like, oh, all right, I can dig that. And
by alternative style, do you mean goth?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay,
okay. Not full on. Yeah, not full on, but like, you know, like I've got tattoos and piercings and fun colored hair and all that. So he doesn't live in London, but he lives about like a half-hour train ride outside of London. So he took the train in to meet me, and like we had our like first date. We basically just like walked around and like went and saw some sights, and then comes the second red flag, which I didn't even. So we've been walking around for like hours at this point, and just talking, and we're having a good time. And he suggests, "Oh, why don't we just stop and get some pizza or something?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we go. Some pizza place, so we're sitting down, we order, and then he decides to tell me, oh, I don't have any money. And like, it wouldn't have been a big deal if he was like, if before he was like, oh, you know, like I'm short on money, like, so if, you know, and like I wouldn't have minded, but it was the fact that we already ordered and now he's telling me this, so it's like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely paying. Okay. But he played it to like, well, I spent all the rest of my money, on a train to come see you, and, you know, I have my son tomorrow, so I want to make sure, you know, this, you know, so then, of course, he did that a lot, like, he would play the, like, my son card, so then, like, I would feel bad and, like, let him get away with a lot, because I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to take this away from your son, or I don't want to, you know what I mean, like, he played on that a lot. Further into our relationship, he played, because I love his son, like, even though we never officially got married, like, we call him my stepson, I'm actually best friends with his ex, like, so there was good things that came out of the relationship. Like, his son and his ex have come to visit me. Like, after we've broken up, like we're very close. So I refer to him still as my stepson. But like, he plays on that. Like, if he like, you know, if he didn't have enough money to get him something for Christmas, he would kind of tell me that, and I'm like, well, I don't want him not to have stuff for Christmas, so of course I'm gonna give you money for it. But he always planned the fact. He then started to plan the fact that once I had a relationship with his son, I loved him, and he knew that, and he knew he'd get away with stuff with that. But anyway, back to this first date. So I let it go because we had a really good day. And, like, you know, and of course, he's had his son, and I didn't want to, like, take anything away from that. So after that first date, we just, like, while I was still living there, you know, we saw each other pretty regularly. He would, like, come into town. I think I took the train to his town once while I was there. And then, like, as I was getting, like, my course was done, I was getting ready to go home. And he was, like, he was laying it on thick, like, this is where the love bombing, like, especially because of my last relationship, I felt, like, kind of just unseen. Like, he was, like, you know, telling me all this stuff, like, how, you know, how beautiful I was, how amazing, and this, and, like, and then, I guess, my last week there, one of my friends from America, she flew out, because she wanted to come to London. So I was like, oh, I'll show you around. I have friends now. And then she was going to help me with all my stuff, like flying back. And she met him, and you know, he was telling her how crazy he was about me and all this. And she was taken by him. And so the last night there, we're all hanging out, and like, you know, him and I go off on our own. And he was like, I know we were just like keeping it casual, but I'm crazy about you, and I really would like to I really want you to be my girlfriend. And I was like, at this point, I was like infatuated. So I was like, yes, of course. So that's when we officially started the long distance, because 2 days later I went home.
So what were the biggest things about him with there was love bombing that occurred here, but were the big things that really hooked you in about him, or were you fully hooked in as of this point, or did that happen later on?
This point, I was just crazy about him. Like, I was attracted to him. The fact that, because the guy I had dated before him, like I said, he was a really good guy. And, like, looking back, there was nothing wrong with him. But just the spark wasn't there. And, like, he just didn't make me feel special. Whereas this ex, I can't even, he would just, how he would talk about me, he would always, he was texting me, he was calling me, but not in it wasn't like in an obsessive way, but it was just he was showing interest in me. And then of course, as much as I hate to admit it, that English charm got me. That got me. And then I really liked how he talked about how his son and how much he loved it. And also at this point, he did not badmouth his ex, because I was also reluctant to date him originally, because I was like, look, I don't want to be the person, if there's a chance you and your ex are going to work things out, because his son was young and they'd only been broken up for a few months at this point. And I was like, look, if I don't want to get in between a family, if there's a chance you guys are going to work things out, and that's a lot. And it was like, no. And, he's like, I respect her because she's the mother of my son, but, we're done. And he, played it she had hurt him. She had, cheated on him, which that's a whole other story. But, so I was like, okay. But, yeah, it was just, we clicked, and he was very charming and just made me feel special. So then now I'm back in the States, and we Skype every day. We Skyped every day for the first couple of years. But we would Skype, and then this is when more red flags would come in. I think it was after maybe 2 weeks of me being home. It was very soon. He decided to tell me that he loves me. And I remember being taken back by, I was like, how do you know, I really like you, I'm crazy about you, but I couldn't say I loved you at this point, but at the same time I was like, well, I don't want to blow this because I really like him. So I say it back, and it felt kind of weird, but eventually it was true, so it was okay. But I felt if I didn't say it back, he would be so offended and hurt and this and that. So I was like, okay. So, and then he also disclosed to me that, that he had bipolar. And so I was like, okay. I was like, that's okay. I'm here to help. I struggle with anxiety and stuff like that as well. So I'm I'm not going to, if there's anything I could do to help. But he would definitely use, and I actually, to this day, I have no confirmation that he actually had bipolar. I think he liked to use it as an excuse to get away with certain things. Because I'm the type of person that if you tell me this, I'm going to start researching things and looking how I can help or what I can do to to support you. But I don't know, it just didn't really match up. There was definitely something going on. And I'll get into some of that later, because he definitely lied about a lot of things regarding illnesses and things like that. So we were good. I flew out there again a couple months later, and so we could see each other for our birthdays, because our birthdays were a couple days apart. And that's when I met his son for the first time, and his ex, and like all of his friends, and they were actually all great. So it was like really nice. Like we actually, after the breakup happened and everything went down, which is another thing.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But like all his friends, they took my side, and
okay.
I'm friends with all of them, and they have all been like really supportive of me and everything like that. So like his friends and I, like we all just hit it off, and it was great. And like, you know, they were like, oh, he talks about you so much and this, and it was great. You know, but it just made me feel really special. Like everyone had already heard about me. Everyone was, you know, so excited to meet me and this, and it was great. So at this point, everything is still, you know, awesome. So I'm going to like skip ahead a little bit and I think a big thing too is because we were long distance, as I'm like later, like now putting together, I let a lot more go that I probably wouldn't have had we been together all the time, because we only had limited time together, and like I didn't want to fight with him because like we only had this time together, and I didn't want to spend it fighting. So a lot of stuff got like swept under the rug, but like never got solved or like never really got addressed, because I like didn't want to fight with him, because I was like, we only have this time together. So that I definitely noticed, like there was so many things that like probably would have been a way bigger issue had we been living in the same place together. So I'll skip ahead a little bit. He started to get like that I wasn't, I didn't seem as like engaged in our relationship. And I was like, it's not that. It's just like, I'm sad. Like I miss you and I want to see you. And it was kind of like he would get kind of like upset if I didn't give him like enough attention. So he booked the ticket to come visit me. And this would actually be the only time in our 4-year relationship that he actually came to visit me. I always had to come and visit him. So he flies out. That summer we had a great time. And actually this was, again, another red flag. After only 10 months of dating, he proposes to me. And I, of course, say yes, like an idiot, because I am still like, oh my God, I love this guy. He's amazing. And I haven't felt this way about anybody ever. So it was like, just really super exciting for me. And also at this point, I should also say, my parents hate him. They cannot stand him.
What was their reasoning?
Well, first, also, my mom has actually never met him face to face.
Okay.
My dad just like didn't like him. And what I think my mom kind of like had his number from the beginning. Like she just like based on things. She just never liked him, and he in turn he hated her. Like, he'd always try to like pit me against her, because I think he knew that she knew like what his deal was, and he could not stand that. Because he was like, she doesn't. Yeah.
There are either sometimes you have friends or family that sees right through these people right from the beginning, and whatever body language they're giving off to the toxic person that you're now in a relationship with, that person will always be like, I don't like your friend. I don't like your sister or your mom or your brother, because they know that they're full of shit. And
exactly.
And immediately did they try to do like a smear campaign, or did he try to do a smear campaign on your mom in some sort of way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, it was basically, she doesn't want us to be together, blah, blah, blah. It was just, he always, like, he could not stand my mom. It was hurtful for me because I'm close with my mom. So I was like, it was just hurtful for me because I was just like, and my mom made it difficult too, because she was like, I love my mom dearly, but she's also the type that, like, if you're doing something that she thinks is the correct thing and she agrees with, she will go out of her way to support you. but if she doesn't agree with it, she kind of like, instead of just being like, this is your decision and I don't agree with it, she kind of like tries to insert herself to like stop it and interfere with it. And she means well by it because she, like, it's like she doesn't want something bad to happen, but it's like, you know, at this point I'm an adult, you kind of need to like step back and just let something happen. So it was kind of rough because I felt like I was in the middle of them, like, and just was like a push-pull. And I even said to him, I was like, why don't you, like, reach out to her? And just, like, I was like, I remember telling him, like, the best thing you can do is just prove her wrong. Like, if she's thinking all this stuff that you're, you know, whatever, just prove her wrong. Like, that's the best thing. Like, that's the best revenge you can get instead of just, like, trash-talking her and saying, like, you know, she's not going to be welcome, like, in our house, this, and that. And I'm like, because that's ridiculous. She's my mother. But, like, it was always a fit. So that was, like, always an issue. My dad met him once or twice and just didn't like him. So, and at this point we're engaged. Things are, like, moving fast, even though, like, we're apart. And I'm, like, really excited about it. But, of course, like, I know, like, my parents are, like, 1,000% against it. So that's kind of stressful. So he goes home, and then I guess it was the next year. So this would be, now we're in 2016. I flew out there again over the winter, but at this point I had just gotten, like, laid off from my job because they were, like, slow, and I was, like, the newest hire. So they let me go. So I didn't have a job at this point, and I was, you know what? I'm not working. I was like, I'm going to go over there and spend a few months with him because I have the time now, and I'll start looking for jobs while I'm out there. So when I come back, like, I'll have some things hopefully lined up. So I go there for a couple months, and there's some like little stupid fights just regarding, like, me giving him enough attention and, like, things like that, which were, like, a little weird, but overall, it was okay. And then while I was out there, his grandfather passed away, and I was supposed to leave a week earlier, but I ended up extending my trip for an extra week or so that I can go to the funeral with him, so, like, you know, be there for him. And we go to the funeral. I meet his whole family at this point. We had got, like, so I met everybody. And then once I got back from that trip, I found out I was pregnant. So that was a lot. And because at this point, when I went over there, we were, like, looking at, like, wedding venues, and we were, like, getting ready to, like, set a date for our wedding because I wanted to move over there. And, but then the day we found a place, and the day that we got the contract for it, I found out I was pregnant, and like the math would be, like, literally, we wanted to get married November of 2016, and my, like, due date would have been, like, November of 2016. So we held off on that. And he was, like, really excited. And I mean, I actually, at that point, like, I softened the idea of kids because of, like, seeing him with his son, which I kind of, like, later found out, like, was basically a show for me. Like, his relationship with his son was, like, his ex would tell me, like, that she always felt better when their son was staying the night or with him when I was there, because she knew that, like, he was, like, well taken care of because I was there, not because of him. So she's like, I always felt better when you were there. So yes, I find I'm pregnant. And we basically, like, he's happy that he's making at this point, he's making all these promises, like, I'll do anything for you guys. I'm going to get you over here. Like, I'll do whatever it takes, you know, I love you so much. Like, you know, this is basically, like, it's not what we planned, but, like, we're going to make it work, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And also, I should also point out, he works in retail at this point. Like, he doesn't, not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but he doesn't earn enough for me to move over there. And he always had this, like, problem, I'm going to get promoted soon. And, like, I'm really working hard. And this, I'm like, okay, that's great. But, like, it would never happen.
And he could barely, what you didn't know is he could barely afford his first child and support payments. So helping support you and your child was going to be even more difficult.
Exactly. And at this point, I didn't know that. And, like,
So during this time, are you being devalued? Has that kind of happened yet? Or is this still in this, because you're a little bit overseas, there's some controlling-ish behavior as far as friends and stuff go, but is anything else kind of popping out of here where you're saying to yourself, this behavior isn't right in how I'm being treated, or right now things are pretty cool still?
Right now, there was probably little things here and there, like we would have some little, like, tips here and that, but because we were so far away, it was hard. It really, after our child was born, that's when things, like, really, like, the devaluing, the, like, putting down, that's when it really started, and even, like, a little bit when I was pregnant. So, I flew out there again while I was pregnant for a couple of months. But before I get to that, I will talk about how he got arrested.
Okay.
So I guess it was probably a couple weeks before I was supposed to fly out there while I was pregnant. I was probably like 6 months pregnant at this point. At this point, he's still working his one job. I'm driving home at this point, and I hadn't heard from him all day, which was weird. Like, we wouldn't necessarily text all day every day, but we would, like, text throughout the day until we would, like, Skype that night. And I got a call from him, and, like, he just sounded really weird and, like, very, like, shaky. And I'm like, what is wrong? What happened? And he was like, I got arrested. And I was like, what? You got what? And basically, he worked at like a game store, and to this day, he's never told me the full truth of what happened, but I know what happened because our mutual friend was there when it happened. So he tried to downplay it. He basically was saying, like, he got caught taking some, like, game vouchers for, like, PlayStation Live or something. Apparently if someone returns it, the credits are still on there. He made up some story that didn't really make that much sense. And, so I was like, well, what's going to happen? I'm like supposed to go over there in a month. And then he's telling me, well, I have to go to court and I could be facing jail time. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I'm like, I am 6 months pregnant, and you're telling me you could go to jail for, like, up to a year for fraud. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was, like, having a meltdown because I was like, what am I supposed to do? And come to find out, like, it wasn't just, like, a couple $100 or whatever. He stole anywhere between, he was, like, basically, if someone returned, like, a console or something, he would, like, pocket the money from it. And, like, I remember telling him, like, they audit stuff. Like, it's not just, like, you could just, like, take this and, like, they keep track of this stuff. He had literally stolen somewhere between, like, 3,000 and 6,000 pounds of, like, worth of merchandise.
Oh.
But this is where, but then he got people to feel sorry for him because he was telling people that I was trying to save money for, me and the baby. And, like, he was just really scared and he just wanted to get us over there, and that's why he did it. So people felt bad for him. Meanwhile, I never saw a dime of that money like that. Like, none of that went towards, like, helping to get us over there, like, at all. But that's what he was telling people, so everyone felt really bad for him. Yeah, so they were like, oh, poor him. Like, he just wants to get his fiance and baby over there and be a family. And, like, even though he didn't do it the right way and it was wrong, like, it was like that kind of thing. But he still got sympathy for it, even though what he did was absolutely criminal. And then also that was, like, another thing that was kind of like, so he doesn't drive. So his friends drove him to court, basically, and they were like, do you want us to come in with you? And, just to be supportive. And he was like, no, I just want to go in by myself. Because he didn't want anyone to know, like, the real amount or what he actually did. Like, it was just, and he would do that a lot with, like, stuff like, no, I don't want to do that. So then he got, like, probation, which also meant that he couldn't fly out when our child was born, so he missed that. Also, like, during this time, he says, this has not been confirmed, because a lot of this stuff is what he says because I'm not there. And basically, I come to find out later, like, every time my gut was telling me something wasn't right or something was off, I was right. But, like, I never had the proof of it. And that was what was the hard thing, because he was able to, like, talk his way out of anything. Like, literally anything he could talk his way out of. Even with, like, the most obvious answer, like, he could still, like, smooth talk his way. So he tells, like, he keeps saying, like, things about how he gets really bad migraines, which I witnessed while I was there, which is true. And so we kept telling him to go to the doctor. And he goes to the doctor, and he tells, like, I went to the doctor, and they told me I have, like, a brain damage, or I have a brain, like, whatever. And I said, well, what caused it? And he was like, he just, like, made, like excuses. And I'm like, okay, well, what can you do for it? And he's like, well, I'm not allowed to fly anymore. Like, and I was like, well, you should probably get a second opinion. I don't know. So he basically, like, there's no proof now, but I am still not convinced there was anything ever wrong. And I'll also, again, get into that later. But he would, like, use that as something like, well, I've got a brain injury and I can't do this, or I can't get a second job because I can't be under a lot of stress because of my brain injury, and I can't fly. And I'm like, like, cabins are pressurized, right? Like, most people can fly unless it's like a severe, like, something very, very severe. Chances are you can fly. Also, my dad's an aircraft mechanic, so, like, he knows pretty much everything there is about airplanes. And he just didn't have an answer. He didn't have, like, a real answer, and then he would kind of, like, try to make me feel bad for questioning him. That's kind of when the, like, devaluing started. He would kind of put me down for it, like, for asking questions. And they weren't, like accusatory questions at this point. It was me trying to, like, be supportive, like, what can I do to help? But it was like he would get snippy about it. Because he didn't want to talk about it. But it was because he never had answers. It was just kind of like, I don't want to talk about this. So now he did not end up getting jail time, but he did get probation. And so I flew over there and was staying with him. And, like, it was, at this point he wasn't working because, of course, he lost his job. And then I was like, okay, so why don't we work on your resume together? And it was just like, he just wouldn't do it. Like, he was just I'm not going to be able to get a job because now I have a record. And I'm like, plenty of people with records can get jobs. I was like, we can figure something out. He got his friend's brother, like, is a manager at a bar. So he got, like, a bartending job, like, part-time. And so while I'm over there, I remember one specific fight that we got into, and this is kind of like when things started turning around with, like, the devaluing, and, like, this is, like, definitely the first. There was definitely other instances, but this is the first one I, like, very vividly remember. We were talking, and it wasn't a fight. It was just we were talking, and I was just kind of opening up with him. Like, I was sad because, you know, I was like, you know, you're not going to be able to be there when our child's born. I'm scared. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, my parents at this point were not happy with me. So, like our relationship was very strained at this point. So I didn't really have support on that end. And I was like, you know, I'm a little bit, like, envious that, like, you know, your ex, you got to be there for everything. And, like, you know, you were there when your son was born. And, like, you know, it's just kind of sad. And he turned it around. He got so angry. And he's like, are you saying you're jealous of my son? And this and that, like, you're jealous of him? And this is, I'm like, that is not what I said at all. Like, and then starts just, like, putting me down. Like, how dare you say you're jealous of him? You know, but I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm like, not jealous. I'm not jealous of your son. I love him. I was like, I'm just saying that I feel like I'm not getting the full, like, experience. Like, I feel like this whole pregnancy I've been stressed out and, like, just upset. And, like, you know, you went and did this thing and get arrested, and now you're going to miss the birth of our child, and I'm really sad and whatever. And, you know, and I don't know when I'm going to see you again after that. And he just kind of, like, turned it around and just started putting me down for, like, saying I was, like, jealous of his son, which I thought was and then I ended up apologizing. Like, it was like that, like, turned it around on me. Like, I'm sorry. I never meant to, you know, like, I'm apologizing for being sad over, like, what I felt was, like, a pretty valid reason to be sad. And it was a lot of stuff like that. Like, he was just, like, he would kind of just try to turn it around. So when I would kind of try to, like, tell him that, if I was mad at him for, like, I was mad at him for what he did for getting arrested, obviously. Like, I almost broke up with him at that point because I was like, that's, like, awful. But at the same time, I felt like he was all I had because, like, obviously, like, the relationship with my parents was strained, and, like, that was it. So I was like, he's all I have, so I'm going to forgive him. So that was, like, when it kind of was starting, and I was there for a couple months, so I'm starting to kind of see the selfishness, like, putting me down for certain things, making me feel, and, like, he would make me feel bad, like, if, like, he wouldn't outwardly say it, but it was more in, like, if I wouldn't sleep with him while I was there, like, every day, like, he would kind of, like, guilt me, like, make me feel bad for it. Because normally, I mean, like, it was, like, but I was like, I'm pregnant and I'm, like, not comfortable, and, like, it wasn't going to happen all the time. And he wouldn't say it because he knew that would make him look bad, but he would, like, it was little things that he'd get really quiet and, like, just didn't really want to talk to me. Like, he would, but it was, like, very short. He was, like, very short with me. So then I come home. I have our child. He, like, tuned in on Skype, and that was about it. It was just, like, I felt very alone and very just, like, what is happening right now? Like, this is ridiculous. And so moving a little bit forward, also at this point, so he had found another job, another, like, retail job. And without telling me, he quit his second job. Like, he told me after the fact. He was like, I quit the bar job. And I was like, why would you do that? And he was like, well, I can't be under that much stress. And, like, it was like, I was like, well, are you kidding me? You quit your second job without telling me. At this point, I hadn't started working yet because I just given birth. I wasn't working yet. And I was like, and you quit your second job? He didn't give me, like, any money the first month that our child was born. He didn't give me any money. It was, like, the month after that he did. And, like, so it was just, like, these things were just, it was starting to pile up now. But then, so at this point, I'm starting to ask him, please come visit. Like, you know, I really want to see you. and I just think it'll be really good. And he's like, I can't. I'm on probation. I can't fly. I can't do this. I can't whatever. You come here. So I get a passport for, and then like fly out with our child. It was so stressful. We get there. I was like, I was going there thinking like, okay, this is some bonding time for them. I'm going to get a little breather since I've been doing it for the last 6 months. And, but like, no, I still like I was still the one like doing everything. He was just there, like, like cooing over her, but then like, oh, she's crying. She probably wants you. Like, so it was just like the trip ended up being more exhausting than it was like relaxing. So then, after we come back, I'm still working these jobs. He's working there. And at this point, we're okay. I guess it would be around this time that his grandmother was sick as well. And this would be something that he was going to hold over my head for the remainder of our relationship and afterwards. So at this point, I'm starting to get like a little bit resentful of him, obviously, because I am like working constantly and trying to like, save up and do things like so we could be a family. And I just don't feel like he is putting in the same effort that I am at this point.
Well, you're a single mom, technically, in a way, working 3 jobs to try and get by and also get ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like he was paying me child support, but it was like, it's terrible. Like, I know some people don't get any, but it was a laughable amount. Like, it was pretty much like, what am I going to do with this? Like, but then at the same time, he was like, well, I have to give some to my, like, and I didn't really want to fight him on it because, again, I didn't want him to, like, take away from his son. Like, at the same time, I'm like, I understand he has 2 children, and I didn't want, like, one to be put above the other because, like, I didn't, like, I love his, it was like that. He would use that, too. Like, well, he needs this for this, so can I give you this? And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Like, I would let it go because, I'm thinking, like, okay, it's going, towards his son or whatever, and I would let it go every time. And I'm like, now I know that wasn't the case, but, like, at the time I'm thinking this, I'm like, okay, that's okay. So at this point, I'm starting to kind of like question things. And at this point, I have a pretty good relationship with his ex. So her and I talk, obviously. And I remember asking her, why did you and him like really break up? Because I had a feeling what he was telling me was not the whole truth. And this is when she started to say, she's like, well, he cheated on me. He was talking to all these different girls while I was pregnant, but I forgave him because obviously I was pregnant. And then I found out he was still talking to girls like after, and he would always like, kind of talk about how he was briefly like a stay-at-home dad, with his son. But she was like, oh yeah, he was. But all he would do was just sit and play video games and like ignore him. And like for the longest time, like, our son, like, didn't want to even, like, be around people or socialize because he, like, wasn't socialized. He would just, like, leave him. He would, like, give him a bottle and just, like, play video games. So I was like, oh, interesting. And she broke up with him because she was like, I had it. Like, I couldn't take it anymore. I was done with him. But he made it out like she cheated on him and, like, he was heartbroken and this and that, but that was not the case. And, like, I believed her. Like, at the same time, I was like so far in that like I believed her, but I was still in that like, well, it's different with me because he really loved me because he definitely played that like, I cared about my ex, but like I never loved anybody like I've loved you. Like it was that whole, you know what I mean? Like made me feel like it was I was different, even though I 100% wasn't. And then at this point, so his grandmother is sick and she's like basically like on her deathbed at this point. He, from what I can tell, at this point, I've known him for like 6 years. He was not close. Like, he did not have a close relationship with his grandmother, not to say that he doesn't love his grandmother. But anyway, so he made it like this big thing, like he wasn't going to be able to go see her So I told him, you know what? Don't give me child support this month. Take that money and go see your grandmother. Go take the train, go see your grandmother. And then it was, well, I can't do that because you're going to hold that over my head that I didn't give you child support. And I was like, no. I was like, if you were going to go spend your money on something frivolous, yes. But, I mean, to go see your grandmother, I'm not going to hold that over your head. Like, take the money and go see your grandmother. So he didn't give me he didn't give me child support that month, but he also did go see his grandmother. But conveniently, like, he had some new video games. Like, he would always have excuses for why he didn't have money for things, but he somehow always had the newest video game or always had, like, stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, this new gadget or whatever, but, like, didn't have money for, like, basic things. And then his grandmother passes away, and, like, I guess I wasn't as supportive as he needed me to be. And that was, like, the end-all, be-all. Like, he used that in every fight. Like, well, you weren't there for me when I needed you, and you weren't there for me when my grandmother passed away, and I was all alone, and this, and that. And, like, I'm, like, apologizing to him, but then, like, in hindsight, I'm like, well, you weren't there for the birth of your child. You weren't there when I was struggling. You weren't there when I've basically been a single mom. Like, you weren't there for me at all. So I'm sorry that I wasn't able to give you, like, all this support that you apparently needed. So that was, like, something that forever was held over my head. And at this point also, so he had made this new friend, and I just, like, the like, hairs on the back of this is all my gut feeling. Like, he has plenty of, like girlfriends, and I love them all. I've always been, like, friends with them. I've never, like, throughout our relationship, I never had any, like, trust issues. I never would, like, when I was there, I never wanted to go through his phone. I never felt that. Like, I trusted him so completely that it was never an issue for me. Like, I always, like, we had our tiffs and stuff, but the trust was never an issue for us. I was always just, like, if he was telling me he was going to go hang out with his one, girlfriend, I was like, tell her I say hi, have a good time. Like, it was never an issue. And then he started hanging out with this one girl, and I don't know, like, I had no reason, but I just did not like her. Like, it just, something about her made me feel so uncomfortable. He'd never given me, like, a reason to, I mean, there was always things that I questioned, but, like, again, like, didn't really think about. I let it go, even though it was, like, really bothering me. And then, like, 3 days into the new year of 2019, he texted me, and he was like, can we talk? And I was like, sure. And he calls me, and he was like, this just isn't working for me. And I was like, what? Like, are you kidding me? And he's like, I just can't do this. It's too hard. It's too hard. I can't do this anymore. And I was like, the first thing I said was, like, is it so-and-so? Like, this girl. And he was like, no, it's nothing like that. My mental health is really bad, and I just can't do this anymore. And, I'm just really struggling. And I'm like, well, if your mental health is really bad, I was like, should you be making, like, life-altering decisions while you're in, like, this state? Like, I don't feel like you should be doing that. And he's like, no, I just can't do it anymore. And, like, just didn't really just didn't sit right. And, of course, at this point, I'm, like, devastated because here, like, we were just talking about, like, me coming to visit, and, like, we're talking to, like, wedding plans again, and all of a sudden you just decided to end it, like, out of nowhere, like, 2 days before.
Completely blindsided.
Oh, just complete, like, 2 days before, like, he called New Year's, Happy New Year, I love you so much, this is going to be our year, I love you, and, whatever, and then completely just, can't do this anymore, I'm done, whatever. And I was completely devastated, like, totally thrown off. And so basically I book a plane ticket, and that next week I fly out there with our child, because I was like, I was like, we have to talk. Like, And I'm thinking, like,
what did you tell your parents or anybody, any of your friends, what was happening during this time?
Yeah, well, basically, like, I called my mom right after, because at this point, the relationship with my parents is good again. Like, my parents could not be, like, better grandparents to our child. Like, she actually has our child right now, so that, like, I could talk to you, like, uninterrupted. Like, they are so close. They are, like, have an amazing relationship. But, like, so I call my mom. I'm, like, hysterical. I got this news, like, while I was driving home from work, and I was like, Mom, please, like, so she took our child for a couple days, because I was like, I don't want her to see me like this. I don't want, like, I don't want, like, her to know anything's, like, going on. So she took her for a few days so that I could, like, and I called out of work. Later at some point, like, it got so, like, I literally had to, like, take, like family medical leave from work because I was so, like, depressed. But I will go into that because of the things he did. So I book a plane ticket, and we fly out there, me and our child. And at this point, I'm thinking, like, you know what? He hasn't seen us in so long. Like he just turned 2. And the last time that we saw him, he was 6 months old. So it has been a while since we saw each other. So I'm thinking, like, okay, you know what? Maybe it's just been, like, we've been apart too long, and he's just not in a good mental state, because I wasn't either. Like, I was, not in a great place. I missed him. And I was like, maybe seeing us, like, in person is going to be like that. Like, okay, what am I doing? You know what I mean? I'm thinking, like, there's still a chance to, like, save this relationship. So I fly out there, and he's, like, very cold. So we get back into town, and, like, we basically spent maybe a half hour. He wouldn't let us stay with him. And then after, like, we grabbed a bite to eat, and he's like, well, I guess you should call, our friends so you can, they can pick you up and you can stay there. You must be tired. And I was like, I'm only here for, like, 3 days. Like, it was, like, a really short trip. I was like, I'm only here for 3 days. Like, I want to spend time with you, and I want to talk to you about what's going on. He's like, we can talk tomorrow. And I'm like, really? I just got here? And it was, like, afternoon. Like, it wasn't like it was nighttime or anything. Like, and basically just blew us off completely. Like, just wanted to, like, could not get rid of us fast enough, basically. And I was like, okay, well, tomorrow is Saturday. Are you going to come and, like, see us then? And he was like, well, I have to work. And I was like, you haven't seen us in, like, a year and a half, and you have to work? And he was like, yeah, I have to work. And I'm not going to be at my place tonight. I'm going to stay at my friend's house because it's closer to work. And I was like, at this point, I'm, like, totally, like, taken aback. I'm like, what is going on? Like, you haven't seen us in so long. You're making us, like, I had to stay with friends because you wouldn't let us stay with you. You're just totally blowing us off. So, and I stayed with his former friends, my friends. And they were super supportive. Like, I basically spent most of the night just, like, crying on their couch, which was terrible. And, like, they were, just super supportive and helpful for me. And, like, at this point, I'm pretty sure they were done with him because they were just, like, infuriated with how he'd been acting. And also, I should point out, this was on my birthday weekend, and he forgot it was my birthday when this was all, he says he forgot that it was my birthday. So this was all happening also on my birthday weekend. So the next day, I don't hear from him all day. I have not heard a word from him. My friends, we decide, he's going to be at work, so we take the kids to the seaside and, like, go to the aquarium there and just haven't. They're like, your trip. They basically were trying to make my trip, like, not totally terrible. And then I got a text from him at, like, 7 o'clock at night saying, oh, I didn't actually go into work today because I wasn't feeling well. I've got a little bit of a cold. Can I come by? And I was like, it's 7 o'clock. I was like, our child goes to bed in like a half hour. I was like, are you kidding? You didn't work today? Like, you blew us off and you didn't work today. So it was kind of like, and come to find out later, he never actually even worked on Saturdays. Like, he was just lying. And then, so this would be when everything, like, when the shit hit the fan, so to speak. So I guess a week later on his birthday, and I guess since then we had talked, and he had kind of, like, alluded that, like, he wanted to, like, maybe work things out, and then he was going to start getting help and, like, seeing, like, a therapist and, like, getting medicated or whatever he needed to do and get better. And so I told him, like, you know, I'll be here. Like, I'll support you if that's what you're going to, like, if you're going to try to get better, and, like, we can maybe work this out. And he kind of, like, alluded that, yeah, maybe we can, like, basically gave me that, like, small little inkling of hope to, like, kind of keep me on the hook. And then so on his birthday, I got a text from his ex, and she was like, do you know what he's doing today for his birthday? And I was like, no, I haven't heard from him yet, because, well, the time difference, obviously. And she goes, because I just happened to be at the train station and saw him getting on a train to London with that girl. And I was like, oh? And this just happened, like, this happened to work out, like, so crazy, because his ex doesn't even live in that town anymore. She just happened to have to run errands there and happened to be at the train station at the exact same time they were. Like, normally she is not there. So that is just bad luck for him. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to text him and find out what's going on. And at this point, like, we are kind of working on things. And I say, oh, happy birthday. What are you doing for your birthday? And he said, oh, I'm just going into London. And I was like, oh, just by yourself? And he was like, yeah, by myself. So I was like, that's your... And honestly, if he had said he was with this person, I probably would have just let it go, because I can't tell him what to do. But the fact that he was, like, going out of his way to, like, lie about it, I was like, okay. So his ex and I are like, all right, we're not gonna call him out just yet. We're gonna see what happens. I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. Have a good day. He said he's gonna meet up with two of his friends later, probably. And this whole time, like, he's texting me little, like, kissy faces and, like, you know, kind of being flirty again. And so I'm eating it up, obviously, because of what had just happened. Like, I was devastated. So any, like, little ounce of attention he was giving me, I was like, this is great. But at the same time, I know something's off. So he's saying he's going into London by himself. I find this is where I get a little bit investigative / a little bit crazy. I find this girl's Instagram, and her story is a picture of, like, a hotel room suite. And it's like a queen bed, whatever. And then I guess she sees I see her story, so she posts, like, a picture of her mom, like, right after. Trying to just throw me off the trail or something. And so I go on Google, and I Google hotel rooms in London, and I find the one that matches her picture.
Oh, good work.
Yeah. So, and then I have my other friend call the hotel. It sounds so bad. And she kind of, like, played, like, oh, I think their phone must have died. Can you tell me if so-and-so has gotten there yet? And they said, oh, yeah, there's a reservation under this name. They checked in. So
that's even better work. That is really good investigative work.
Oh, wait, it gets better.
Okay, can't wait.
So we confirmed that they're staying at this hotel, and then one of my other friends who lives in London, I tell her, and she was like, oh, no. So she literally calls the hotel again and finds out when's checkout. And so they tell her, and she goes, okay. So she gets there. This is in January, so it's very cold out. And like, I remember like waking up to like voice messages from her. And she gets there like 3 hours early. She's like, I've got my coffee. I'm outside the hotel. There's only one way in and out. So if they come out, I'm here. I'm ready. And so I love my friends. They're amazing. So she literally catches them walking out of the hotel together the next day, took a picture to like show me, runs up to them in the middle of the street in the middle of London and just lets loose on both of them. Full on just was like, how dare you? Like, you know, she flew out there with your child to try to fix things with you, and you're here with it. You're lying. And basically she said he turned white as a ghost. He had nothing to say. This girl looked like totally taken aback. And basically we caught them totally 100%. And the next part I'm not so proud about, but at the time I was like super upset. I literally called them out. At this time I had Facebook. I've like since deleted it. But at this point I called them out on Facebook. And they both ended up having to delete their Facebook because of all the like flooded comments, texts, and messages they were getting that were like calling them, you know, giving them some abuse there. And again, he would use that against me too. Like he'd be like, I was getting like threats from your friends, and I was scared to go into town because I was scared I was going to get beaten up. And I was like, okay, I probably should not have posted it on social media, but I also kind of like wanted you to be held accountable, and also like then don't run around and do stuff you shouldn't be doing. Even his own mother was like, he deserves it if he gets punched in the face. And I was like, oh. So, but then he swore up, and it was like it was the first time. That was a one-time thing, and you know, and like I didn't believe him, but at the same time, I'm like I wanted to believe it. And there was like a couple other instances, like I remember seeing like on Instagram that like he liked this girl's picture like after all of this happened, and I was like, what? Like, and I just remember like he was like, you know, he was apologizing, he was, you know, saying all this stuff like, you know, the one time it's not gonna, like, I'm done with it, blah blah blah, and like, you know, I had no proof that it was like done, but he kept saying, and I want to make things right, like this, and that, and like we weren't back together at this point, but we were like talking, and so then I remember seeing him like this girl's like Instagram post or whatever, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? And then he was like, super apologetic, like I was stupid, I shouldn't have done it. I was like, just block her. I was like, what's so hard about that? I was like, it takes 2 seconds. I just always have, well, I'm really not on my phone that much anymore. I'm like, I'm literally talking to you on the phone right now, and I can just go on right now and just hit block. It takes 2 seconds. And he's like, I'm just going to delete my whole Instagram. I was thinking about doing it anyway. And then I said, like, I was like, you know what I think? And he's like, what? I was like, I think you're still seeing her, and that's why you don't want to block her. But if you delete your Instagram, then you don't have that accountability. You could say, oh, I deleted my whole Instagram. So you're not technically following her, so I'm appeased, but also you don't have to block her, so she won't question anything. And he was like, you're crazy, basically, like, you need to calm down, like, he's basically trying to flip it around on me. Like, if you ever want to, like, fix anything, like, you have to let stuff go. You can't obsess over it and this, that. And he convinced me, and I found out he also convinced her to block each other. So her and I blocked each other at this point. And before that, I had, like, messaged her, like, several times, and not mean. Like, I actually even apologized to her for, like, how, like, everything went down. And I was like, you know, I should not have, like, my friend should not have, like, gone after you like that, like, you know. But I was like, you have to understand, like, we have a child together, like, and, you know, I need to know, like, is there, like, what is going on, what happens, like, you know. And I appealed to her, just, like, please, like, even if you don't have to like me, whatever. I was like, but we, like, just so I know. And she never answered me. And then I guess it was a couple months later, he kind of reached out to me and said he wanted to work on things, and he wanted me to, we weren't officially back together.
Are you guys in that couple months? Are you guys communicating with each other? Is it like once a week?
So after everything first happened, I didn't want to talk to him. So any communication like regarding our daughter would go through like my roommate. Because at this point, I moved out of my parents' house, so I had my own place, but I had a roommate, and it would go through her. Like, so if he wanted to get updates or whatever, it would be through my roommate. And then actually, the two friends that I stayed with when I went to visit after we broke up, they got married in Cyprus, and I was a bridesmaid in their wedding, and he wasn't invited, but I had got, like, one of my flights, like, there was, like, a whole, like, layover issue, or one of my flights got canceled or something. I forget exactly what it was. So I had to spend one night in London, and he ended up coming to pick me up and, like, stayed at the hotel with me, and we ended up, like, sleeping together, and, like, I'm thinking, like, oh my God, this is great. Like, we're seeing each other. And, yeah, So
at this point, the trauma bond with you guys and how you're bonded, you're still running on the belief that you can still have a relationship with him. It's something you still want at this point.
Yes. Oh yeah, I wanted it more than anything. Like, I was like, I didn't care. Like, I knew what happened was, like, it was awful, but I just still wanted it so bad. Like, I pretty much at this point, like, we were, like, had a okay, given everything that happened, we still had, like, I don't want to say good relationship because it wasn't good, but, like, we could talk, like, we would FaceTime, we could joke around, we could, like, he had that pull to me, like, that charming, like, way, basically, where, like, I overlooked everything, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was still trying to, like, do things to, like, I don't know, get him back. I don't know, like, I was still, like, even though he was the one that, like,
you were under a spell. You were under a spell.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I would, like, he did this terrible thing, and I'm thinking, and I was apologizing to him, like, oh, I should have been there when your grandma, because he would say that, like, well, you weren't there for me when my grandmother died, or you weren't, and I, like, and I'm apologizing to him, like, I should have been, I'm sorry, like, I probably wasn't there for you, I'm sorry I wasn't this, I'm sorry I wasn't that.
So in a way, you've had him in this kind of pedestal situation where you're feeling, even though that he's doing these things wrong, you've proven these things have been done wrong, but you still believe that you could do more for him, and that you're not doing enough for him.
And that's why, I'm thinking that's why he did this. That's why, because I wasn't the best, like, the partner I should have been for him. I wasn't there for him. I was totally not taking into account that he also was not there for me, and he was the one lying to me, and, like, I was faithful in our relationship and this and that, but, like, that didn't even compute in my head. It was basically just, like, what did I do wrong? Like, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, I did this, I could have done this, and it was just,
So all of the sowing of seeds that he did at the beginning are now really playing out in this situation with you towards the end here, where it's very difficult for you to leave because these seeds are now trees, and you're firmly entrenched in the ground here.
Oh, 100%. Like, he could have said jump, and I would be like, how high? Like, it was just, And also it was the fact that it was like, I wanted this family to work so bad, and, like, it wasn't like, it's not like a traditional breakup where it's like he could still see her on the weekends. It's like, we're in different countries. If this doesn't work out, like, their relationship, like, it's going to be hard, if not impossible. Mm-hmm. So at this point too, it's like, I want this to also, like, I had this fan, like, it has literally been my dream since, like, I was, like, a child to, like, move abroad, like, fall in love. Like, I just always wanted to, like, live somewhere else. And, like, so, like, this is also, like, not only with him, but this is also, like, also my dreams of, like, living somewhere else. Like, I felt like that was getting squashed too. And it was just, I was trying to hold on really tight to all of this. So I guess it would have been June of 2019. At this point, like, I was in, like, a deep, deep depression. Like, I had to take time off from work. Like, my work was affected. Like, I was like, I was a mess. Like, I was basically just functioning enough to, like, get by and, like, you know, try to maintain as much normalcy, you know, for our daughter as possible. Like, but other than that, like, I had, like, completely isolated myself. I'd shut friends out. I was not in a good place. I was, like, just miserable. In June, and through this, I should say, his family has been, like, really supportive of me. Like, they've been really, he does have, like, a bit of a dysfunctional family, that, like, our two families are complete polar opposites, but, like, they always would, like, check in on me and, like, you know, make sure I was okay. And, you know, like, that whole, like, so I never felt like his family was against me or they were, like, whatever. And I remember he has a younger sister, and I had, like, helped her, like, with a problem. Like, she came to me and, like, I helped her with something, and he, like, reached out to me and he was like, I really appreciate you doing that for her. And, you know, it really, like, I don't know, like, it really made me realize that, like, you know, we want to work on things and, like, you know, maybe we have a chance and this and that. And I was, like, you know, I was ecstatic. I remember this just being, like, absolutely thrilled. So I'm thinking, great, we're going to work things out. This is going to be amazing. We're talking about moving there. I like, paid for, like, you know, so a consultation with, like, an immigration lawyer, because at this point he was earning enough money to get me over there. And we planned for a trip at the end of that summer. Actually, it was last weekend. It was literally, like, a year ago. Like, it would have been a year ago. We planned a trip. We were going to go look at, like, around places where we were thinking about living. And kind of, like, I didn't bring our daughter on this trip. It was going to be, like, an us trip for, like, just, like, a long weekend for, like, us to kind of, like, reconnect and, like, you know, and then plan on, you know, us moving over there, like, soon. And that was going to be the plan. And I was, you know, like, thrilled. Also, at this point, too, like, I was so stressed, and, like, I developed, like, like, a stress rash under my eyes, like, from everything, like, he was putting me through, and, like, just the gaslighting was constant. Like, if I was upset about something, it was like, you're being crazy, you're overreacting, you're being jealous, and this, and, like, if I tried to say, like, well, you did, like, leave me and, like, caught you with this girl, it was like, well, you have to let that go. Like, you're being ridiculous. Or if I would, like, question him on something, like, it was like, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm like, well, I need to feel like I could trust you, but, like, you're not giving any reasons to. And, like, it was just such a stressful time. Like, I went to, like, a dermatologist. They got every test done on me, and they're like, literally, you're not allergic to anything that would cause this. Like, it's stress. Like, you literally have this, like, disgusting rash on your face because you're stressed out. Like, it was rough. And so this is basically when, like, his everything, like, all the lies will come out. And there was a lot. So at this point, I think I'm crazy. I think I'm still, you know, thinking of everything I've done wrong. I'm still apologizing to him. Just all of that. And also at this point, too, after he said he wants to work things out, he says, well, okay, I want to start saving money for you to move over, so I'm only going to give you, like, $50 a month for child support, and I'll put the rest in savings. And I'm like, okay. I was like, it's going to be tight, but all right, I'll make it work. And so he's doing that, so I'm getting less money, and I end up, like, buying my plane ticket and paying for the hotel for while we were there, because we were going to be in, like, a different town, because when I was supposed to move there, we were going to be moving to a different area, so we were going to stay at this area and, like, look around. So I meet up with him the first time in, like, almost a year. We were having a really good weekend together. He was a little standoffish, but it wasn't like we were still like, you know, like holding hands and like we like would go like, whatever. And it was nice. Looking back, he was definitely more detached than like when we were first together, and you know, we were just, you know, but I was just thrilled for any type of attention at that point. And there was like a couple of moments where he was like, I remember, we went to go see a movie, and he like stepped aside to like let me go like pay for my movie ticket, and I'm okay with like going Dutch and all that, but I'm like, I just paid for a plane ticket and our hotel. I was like, you can shell out the money for a movie ticket. Like, I just remember being like really annoyed about that. And then we were sitting down having food, and he goes, oh, by the way, I can fly again. Like, I'm allowed to go to fly again. And I was like, what? When were you going to tell me this? And he was like, oh, I found out not long ago. And I was like, wouldn't that be like the first thing you tell me? The first person you tell? And he was like, well, my friend and I, we're going to have a guy's trip. We're going to go. Yeah. Yep. Oh, wait.
Okay, sorry. That just came right out of me. I apologize.
Oh, no. Wait, it gets better. Are you ready for this? Then he says to me, because he's had a really rough year. I was like, I just looked at him, my jaw about hit the floor. And he was like, what? What's wrong? I was like, is this a joke? I was like, you tell me you can't fly for all these years, and that's why I've been flying out here. You're making an excuse. You can't fly. Suddenly, magically, your friend wants to go on a guy's trip, and you can fly. And the first thing you don't want to do when you get quote unquote clearance to fly, because I don't believe that was ever a thing. The first thing that you do is not go immediately fly out to see your child. Like, wouldn't that be the first thing you would do? Like, to me, like, that would be like, oh my God, I can go now. I can go see her. Like, I can go spend time with her. But no, he wants to go on a guy's trip because his friends had a rough year. And I was like appalled at that point. I was seething. Just so mad. I can't believe you said that. And he's like, well, I'm gonna come visit you guys next. And I'm like, oh, at this point I was like, this is ridiculous. And at the same time, like, I was so appalled, but at the same time I still was like craving that attention. Like, I still wanted him to be there. And a lot of it too was like, I just wanted him to like give a shit about his child. Like, to me, it was like very hard to wrap my head around that. Like, I don't know. It was so, cause like for me, it's like, I would do anything for even his son, who is not biologically related to me. Like, I go out of my way for. Like, it's like, to me, it like wasn't computing that like he would be so dense to not understand why that would bother me. So then again, this is how like all this stuff happens. Like, my last night with him, I get an Instagram message, and it's from this girl, and she says, "Are you with so and so?" And his face, like, it dropped. Like, he turned ghost way, and he was never physically abusive, but like, he grabbed my wrist to get that phone out of my hand. And was like, don't answer that. He's like, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. But you have to listen. And I'm like, oh God, what? And he's like, so I was seeing her for longer, and I just recently ended things with her. You know, when you and I decided we were gonna work things out. And I'm like, so why is she messaging me? And he's like, just don't answer her. Just block her. I found, like, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, he was nervous, and he, like, was trying to talk his way out of it. Like, but, like, you could tell he was like, I know I'm screwed. But, like, he was still trying, don't talk to her. We're going to, you know. I put my phone down for a little bit, because at this point I was, like, so upset. And I was just like, okay, I'm not going to. But then I'm laying in bed, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, no. I was like, I need to know the truth. I want to know what's going on, what's happening. So I messaged her back, and he was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, no. I was like, no. I was like, it's coming out today. Like, I want to know. And basically, this is the rough part. This part still gets me. Like, I'm still, so not only were they still together, they had been living together since November of 2018. So that would be when he bought me the new engagement ring. They had been sleeping together since January 2018, and we broke up January 2019. Not only that, he had gotten her pregnant 3 times, while the first time was right around the time when his grandma died, and he convinced her to get an abortion so that I wouldn't find out. The second time was like right after I had caught them at the hotel. And again, he like talked her like out of it. It was like, you can't. And then the third time was currently, and she was trying to get a hold of him the whole weekend, but he wasn't answering her because he was with me, and she had found out that she was pregnant. And it just all blew up from there. Like, I was absolutely, and mind you, like in a couple hours, I had to go and get on a flight and go back home. And that weekend that I flew out with our daughter to go see him, he was there. He blew us off so he could be with her. And basically, yeah, he had been living a double life with this girl. At first, I felt bad for her as well, but also she knew about me for a very long time. And, like, I guess he had told her that, like, I never let him see his daughter, and I was, like, this terrible, mean person, and he was making me out to feel like I was the one that was just terrible in the relationship. Like, I was the one that was neglectful and wasn't there for him and all this. And it was just kind of, I was, like, my world was shattered. Yeah, so this girl, she kicked him out after this all happened. But then he also, after all of this, after he was exposed and, everybody figured out, who he was and what he was doing, he then tried to play the mental health card again. Like, he kind of, like, alluded without, like, outright threatening that he was going to, like, kill himself. And then he was trying to be like, I'm going to get help, and I'm going to this and this and that. And, like, it was just, like still to this day, it is just unbelievable to me that he, like, led this double life. But, like, it was easy for him because I was so far away. So it was like, how would I know? And also, when he started seeing her is when he kind of started cutting out all of his friends. Like, I remember, like, I would talk to his friends, and they're like, we haven't seen him in a long time. Like, we haven't heard from him. Like, he doesn't reach out. But he would always pay it like, well, they don't reach out to me anymore. They don't talk to me anymore. But it was like, no, we, like, asked him to hang out, and he just doesn't want to because he didn't want to get caught. And he knew that if, they found out, they would tell me. So he, of course, like, cut them out. And this girl, apparently, she had never met any of his family. She had never met any of his friends. She's like, I always thought it was weird. Like, he never wanted to bring me around, like, friends or family. Like, he never really didn't want to go out that much because he didn't want anyone to see him and get caught. And he still was trying to, and I would love to say that this is the point where I said I had enough. But for a little bit it was. I was so just, like, it was just a mix of just, I don't even know, just hurt and disgust and anger and all that. And I would have loved to say that was where it was, but
I think everyone listening was hoping that this was going to be the point.
I wish. Then I still kind of got stuck back because then he started, like with the like a couple months later, I should say. This wasn't like immediately after, but he kind of like started with the like flirting a little bit again and like talking, and we were like, like FaceTiming and stuff. Like obviously we were because of our daughter. We were FaceTiming and we were kind of whatever. And then I actually did start seeing somebody. It didn't work out, but like it's basically he never really cared about his daughter. It was more like when he asked questions, he asked the questions he thinks he's supposed to ask to make him look like a good father. He doesn't actually care. Like he doesn't actually do things to engage with her. Like FaceTiming, it's literally me being like, tell daddy this, tell daddy that. Like he doesn't ask anything. He asks the same question over and over again. But all of a sudden, when I had started seeing someone, he was mad that there was like somebody around his daughter. Like it was like now that she was his possession, and he didn't like that. Like he was absolutely just like, you don't even know this person, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I knew you for 5 years and look what you did. So, I mean, that doesn't really matter. And then all of a sudden he wanted to FaceTime all the time with her, and he was like putting in all this effort, and then he gets quiet again. And it's my gut again. And I literally text him, and I actually don't know anything's wrong or anything, but I go, is there anything you want to tell me? And think really hard before you answer. I'm just like taking a guess here. Like, I really don't know. And then he was like, yeah, I'm seeing somebody. So basically he started seeing somebody, and I was like, and that's when I was like, I'm done. This is it. Like, yeah, I can't go back and forth like this. And you clearly don't like give a crap. Like this is where, and that's when I kind of like right before then, I kind of started like looking up like the narcissism, and his ex basically, like, she has been like really my rock through this like entire thing. Like the whole year, like I would be calling her, and like we would just talk about it, and like because she understands, and like she like, and I learned so much about like how he was always on his best behavior with his son when I was there. Like he was always like trying to be dad of the year, but in reality, when I wasn't there, it wasn't like that. Like it was the picture he wanted me to see. It was, he didn't like, he would send him, home without dinner, and he would do this. And like, I remember like times like overnight, if he had his son overnight, like I was waking up and like making him pancakes or something, and he was sleeping in. But if I didn't wake up, he was literally just going to hand him like a box of cereal and be like, go ahead. Like, it was just like, I don't know, like she was like, he doesn't check in on him, like, and I even started keeping like track of how often he would like reach out and ask about, our daughter and everything. And it was like really sad, the amount that he did not. Like there would be like times where maybe like twice in the month, and he would ask the same question, like, how's she doing at daycare? Like that's basically the only thing he would ask. And so, but then, of course, so again, like at this point, this is a couple weeks ago, and I finally just was like, I'm done. I can't, like, my mental health is just, I can't keep hanging on to the fact that you're going to be this person that I thought you were. And like, you really have not kept one promise you've made in our entire relationship. You've not made one effort. At points, I even offered him, like, hey, do you want to come stay with me for a couple months so you can spend time with your daughter? Like, I have given him that offer. I have, like, done nothing to, like, try to keep him from her. Like, and he's always had an excuse why he can't do that. So I'm, like, at this point, like, I'm sure you've already started telling this new girl, like, terrible things about me and that I don't let you see your daughter. Because, the jilted dad is his thing. Like, he loves to play the dad that loves his kids so much, but like the world is against him and being able to see them. Like, that's that's how he plays it. Like he loves his kids so much, and he, he'll do anything for him, but just so like, we keep his kids from him, or we don't make it easy for him and all that. Which isn't the case, but basically, like, after everything happened, his other ex pretty much told him she does not trust him or his judgment, so he's only allowed to have, like, supervised visits with this son. Now she's like, I don't want you having him overnight because I don't trust you after all of that. Like, you lied to all of us. Like, it might have directly affected, me, but, you were lying to everybody, and that's, like, for years. She's like, so I don't trust you. So now he's not even allowed to have his son, like, overnight. He has to go there to see him. And for as far as like contact with his daughter now, I feel like I'm really torn because she doesn't really have a relationship. Like, she understands, like, she knows he's daddy, like, if she sees him, but like, and I've never, like, I don't talk negative about him around her. Like, she doesn't know what's going on. Like, if she asks about him, I'll say, oh, daddy. Like, I try to keep it, upbeat but at the same time, I'm like debating because like, she really doesn't ask about him, like, at all. Or like, there'll be times like he has tried to call her and she's like, I don't want to talk to daddy. I only want mommy. And like, just doesn't, because he doesn't talk to her. She doesn't have a relationship. And I feel like it should be her choice to have a relationship or not, but I also don't want to set her up for the disappointment that will inevitably come with it. So for now, I told him I can't talk to him at all anymore. If he wants to talk to her, he can go through, my roommate. And if he wants updates, if he wants to FaceTime with her, he'd set it up with her. He did for like a day or two. He was like asking those questions that he thinks he should ask. That's like the best way I could explain it. Like, it's not like actually engaging questions, just like, this will make me look like a good dad. But like, I haven't heard, like, she hasn't heard anything from him in like a couple weeks. So I don't even know if he'll pop in again or not.
So for you, this is, you being no contact is as fresh as can be right now. When we're talking, and as far as dealing with what you went through, are you in a good place about it now? Like, is he off of a pedestal? And like, what kind of work do you anticipate that you're going to do to have, this never kind of occur again, as far as boundaries and looking at like all the things that were used against you, that, you had good intentions and those intentions were taken and twisted to use for, his own purposes?
So now it's hard. So now, like, I have good days and bad days. Like, he's definitely off of the pedestal. Like, I see him for what he is, but the damage is like, I so completely trusted this. Like, I was blindsided. Like, even like I trusted him, and like, when you're in a long distance relationship, like, you have to have that trust, or you'd go crazy. And like, and also because like, I was faithful the entire time because I had in love with him. Like, for me, that was it. Like, that trust. Like, I am so. Right now, for me, the biggest thing is, like, I'm not in a place where I want dating or anything, but even getting to that point, I'm like, if my child's own father does not care about her, like, how can I expect someone else to? And I just have this, like, it's hard. So I'm like, currently I'm looking for a therapist and all that to try to, like, work through some of it. I have PTSD. Like, I still, like, I replay and, like, live those moments, like when that all came out, like, to fruition, like, over and over again. Like, it is just so, like, it's stressful. It just, I like, there's times where I felt like I was going crazy because, like, my gut is screaming one thing and, like, he's telling me another, and I just wanted to believe him so badly, and I wanted him to be this person that, I thought that he was. even though everything else was showing that he wasn't. And I think the biggest thing is too, is just like, I love, our kids so much, like his son and our daughter, I love them so much. And like, it's so hard for me to wrap my head around that he like would like someone could do, and I know it's possible, but the would just like have such a lack of just anything, like just could do that, like could live that double life, could be texting. Like if I find out, like I kind of like went back, of course, to like torture myself a bit, and like the days I knew that he was like now with this girl and texting me, and I was like reading them, and it's just how he played like both sides so easily, how he could like, do all that. It just, so I feel good with my resolve to not talk to him. Like I've blocked him completely. Like I am not speaking at all to him. I just can't, because I know, I don't think I'm not at a point now, even though I see him for what he is, that I'm strong enough that I wouldn't fall back into it, even knowing what I know. Like I know I don't want to. Like it's like a kind of like an internal battle. Like it's like, even if I did go back, I wouldn't trust him. I would never trust him, and it would be miserable and so stressful. But at the same time, there's like, I kind of just want him to like, it's like that fantasy. Like I had this fantasy relationship, and I almost just want him to acknowledge that like he's sorry, but he's not. Like it's kind of just coming to terms with that, because he says he's sorry, and I'm like, I don't really believe that. I believe you're sorry you got caught. Which is, so I'm taking it a day at a time, as well as that, and just trying to do my best. But I think going like fully no contact, I think I struggled with going no contact because we have a child. But I think I have a little bit of the luxury of that. Now the long distance was a problem, or at the time the long distance was a problem, but now it's actually kind of like a blessing in disguise, because I don't have to see him. I don't have to worry about bumping into him in the street. I don't have to worry about like custody of our child, because he was never really entitled to any of it anyway. So really me letting him have contact with her and stuff is just me being nice. And I was always the one making the effort. And now I told him it's 100% on him. So it's kind of like the ball's in his court. And I kind of know he's not going to do anything about it. So it's a little bit of a relief.
So, Chance, before we end off the show, do you have any words of wisdom or advice for anyone who's listening that is going through the exact same thing as you right now, or is in the aftermath? What would you say to them?
I think like a lot of people have said, trust your gut, because I mean, everything there was so much more than what was said today. Like, just so many instances where my gut was telling me something and I knew it to be, or even just little lies that I knew he wasn't telling the truth, but I just chose not to. I just chose to ignore. And every time my gut was telling me something was wrong, it was. Like, every time I had an inkling of something, it was wrong, and I ignored it, and I let him talk me out of it. But chances are your gut is right, and you're feeling uncomfortable or something's off for a reason, because chances are there is a reason. That's what I've learned, to trust my gut and not let someone talk me out of it.
Well, Chance, I really want to thank you for being on the show with me today. And, this was, 4 years. It probably wouldn't have gone on for that long if you lived in the same town. You probably would have seen everything a lot sooner. But I'm really happy that you're out of it, and that you're no contact, and you worked really hard. I mean, yeah. I mean, being a single mom, having 3 jobs. I mean, you should just be proud of yourself, in the sense of, for a lot of people who are in these situations, who are battling through, no matter what, when you're in these situations, you're tough for being there and staying. And, for a lot of single moms out there who might not think they'll be able to make it outside of a relationship. You were a single mom within the relationship and working in 3 jobs. So, for those people, you're a good role model in the sense of, once they leave, there is a way to get out of it. And, you're a really good poster child for that. So thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully this will help some people too.
I think it will. And for all of you listening, I hope you have a good night.